Ladies and gents, boys and girls, pronouns of your choosing, welcome back to the Firefighters podcast. It is great to see you. It's great to have your ears with us once again. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a fantastic day. We have got a great episode for you. Today on the podcast, I welcome my good friend Nathan Ashe, Watch Commander from the UK's London Fire Brigade. And today we're talking about motivations, we're talking about bullying in the fire service, charities, we're talking about personal development, we're talking about setbacks and different learning styles. Nathan has got some great examples of challenges he's faced in the fire service. It's probably different to many people, but also similar to a few. And it's those few that we're focusing on today, those ones that really struggle in a system that perhaps wasn't designed for them, put together at a time when we weren't aware of some of the challenges people were facing. So there's some great takeaways from today's episode. But before we jump in there, let's hear from our Firefighters podcast family. Now, when you're looking ahead to that night out or looking ahead to the weekend, you've been working hard, why not treat yourself to an amazing night or day out with Blue Light Ticket? Blue Light Tickets allows venues, sports teams, attractions, festivals and concerts to give free tickets to NHS and or emergency services staff to say thank you. Because there's so many massive venues, so many huge companies that really appreciate what everybody's been doing during the pandemic and especially the work we continue to do every single day out on the front line. So to fully leverage this, visit bluelighttickets.co.uk and find out more. You can register there. You can enter ticket ballots for free to attend events all over the UK. Before we get in there with today's guest, I want to put a massive shout out to our good friends over at William Wood Watches, Johnny and the team working hard, creating those luxury British watch brands from upcycled fire service equipment. Now, if you haven't seen who these guys are, you've got to get over to williamwoodwatches.com. These are a luxury watch brand with some fantastic history in the industry. Late grandfather of the owner, William Wood, was in the British fire service for 25 years. Now his grandson, Johnny, runs the company, celebrating these heroes, sharing that courage, that bravery and keeping the dream alive with the role models in the fire service all over the world. When you jump over to the website, you'll see their Valiant collection, the Bronze edition, the Chivalrous collection, and new this year out was the Triumph collection. So for more information, head over to williamwoodwatches.com and check out their beautiful collection right now. Also want to give a shout out to our media partners, the Emergency Services Times and the Emergency Services Show. We're also working in line with the Cheshire Fire Challenge and the British Firefighter Challenge. Competition's back on in the UK towards the end of 2021. All the details are in the notes for the show. And that's the names in the frames for today's episode, folks. So if you're sitting comfortably, buckle up for safety and I will see you on the other side.
Hello.
Nathan.
How you doing?
I'm awesome, my good man. How are you?
Got a proper cell there. You got a proper mic and everything.
Oh, dude, we've got the whole setup here. It's the whole shebang. Honestly, it's not the whole shebang yet. Whether I'm traveling or whether or not people are coming sort of here to the quote-unquote studio. Man, it's all about the audio quality. 100%. That's why I always say to people, try and be in an area where, you know, you don't get too much interference and stuff like that. How are you doing, my good man?
Yeah, good, all good, yeah. I think, I don't know if we've actually met, but I've definitely heard of you around before.
No doubt.
I remember, and I think your name first came up was when I went through the rat run.
Yeah.
And they were like, there was this bloke from Melton, if he can get through it, you can.
Yes, so way back when I first joined the fire service around 18, that was probably around the time when I first started taking a lot of performance-enhancing drugs. I went through a phase of about 5 years where I wanted to be the biggest, strongest thing on the planet. Yeah. And I ended up getting up to about 23 stone. I was a big muscular dude doing a bunch of strongman, all in the wrong way, and it ended with injuries and all sorts of stuff and surgeries that I had to have done. But there was a time when it was the worst kept secret in the service. There was like, you know, the very clearly obvious guy that's taking a lot of steroids, but nobody wants to say anything about it. That was kind of that was where I was. But it took a lot of support and a lot of help and a lot of coaching and mentoring and working with people around me to get through that. And I'm thankful for that. It's kind of brought me to where I am now. You know, I wouldn't change it. Yeah. It was a tough lesson to learn, physically, emotionally, financially, certainly physically. But no, we are where we are. So, you know, we try and strike the balance between keeping it realistic, but also trying to make it connecting for firefighters and for all emergency services. So we have police and we have, you know, paramedics and stuff coming on the show. Yeah. So I want it to be true. I want it to be authentic. But equally, I don't ask people to commit professional suicide because, you know, that's in nobody's interest. Edit it anyway.
With Grenfell, I can obviously tell you about kind of my experience and stuff. I can't really go into too much detail about anything, which I won't really anyway. I don't know if we can emphasize it. I'm obviously happy to talk about kind of anything, but I do want to talk about the charity, because the more we get that out, the more we can help with kind of Firefighters charity
100%.
and everything as well. And like with Nikki Upton, behind that, obviously, it was advertising from her point of view. It was kind of advertising a trip, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or a little walk, as I keep on calling it to her.
She'll love that.
she is terrible, right? I'm on the same watch as her, right?
Yeah.
But she's on watch. And she's terrible for saying she's cold all the time. I was like, it's 18 degrees. And she's like, I'm cold. I was like, do you know where you're going in like 2 years' time? You're going to the coldest place on earth.
Yeah, I know, bless her.
And it's like minus 25 degrees or something like that.
It's something bananas, I know.
Kiss goodbye to your toes.
Yes, she will, bless her. I mean, it's a hell of an expedition. I really look forward to seeing the outcome of it. I actually spoke to them not too long ago about. They said, "Oh, we'd love to speak to you when we get there, and try and do a Zoom call from the destination, as it were." Yeah. And I was like, "Man, yeah, absolutely, girls, that would be incredible." And if the logistics permit and if the technology permits, that will probably be the biggest barrier for us. But it'd be wonderful to do it if the stars align. So, Nathan Ashe, welcome to the Firefighters podcast. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Thank you for coming on, my man. I really appreciate it. So for people unfamiliar, you are Watch Commander, London Fire Brigade.
Yeah, based at Chelsea, just kind of west of the centre of London. We did change our ranks. So
you did, didn't you?
I'm now a sub officer, which is to the national role map is a Watch Manager A.
What was some of the thought process? I know you don't know the policies and procedures and stuff, but
you know what? I think some of it was all the. Obviously, we're under scrutiny all the time as a London Fire Brigade, and when all these pictures go, oh, look at all them white hats standing around doing nothing, all them white hats. But I think that was probably some of the drive behind it, because it has took that kind of little bit away. So
do you not wear white hats then anymore? Is that?
No, well, we've gone, like I say, we're going back to the old rank system. So I'm now a yellow hat with 2 stars. I did have a white hat for about a week, and then took it back off me, and then gave me a. So the way it works, we're like a technical rescue station. So they have a Watch Manager B and a Watch Manager A on duty.
Okay.
At any one time. So I'm the Watch Manager A, basically. A similar setup to that.
Is there something, do you think, about the terminology as well? Because in certain brigades, we use the term managers, don't we? Some people are called crew, watch managers, or commanders. And I know it's something we're going to speak about today, because I know we've spoken a little bit around that leadership. Do you think the terminology matters? Are we just changing words for words' sake? Or is there something about... It's about the individuals. No, it's about the individuals themselves, how they manage people. You can call the manager what they want, really. I think. I don't know. Someone obviously think it does. It doesn't to me. It's about the individual. Yeah.
I think people in Watch Manager B positions thought they were going to automatically get no challenges, get ultimate respect on station and stuff like that. No one would dare say boo to him, but it doesn't. It's not happened.
I think
normal people again, like the same as what before. Yeah.
Certain things come with a title. People think, they're like, well, it's the title that makes the person, and I'm like, no, it's not at all. It's the person that makes the title. When you see a great leader, they are a great leader whether or not they've got anything on their shoulder or anything on their hat. And we recognise these people in sports teams or even just in the school playground. You see those leadership qualities in people, irrespective of their position or rank.
Yeah, I think some people in the job have been watching too many episodes of London Burning. London's Burning, and I think they, it's funny. That gives you a perception of, and then people think they've got to be something else that they're not, or pretend to be something, or they hold this rank, so I've got to act a certain way. Just be a normal person.
Yes.
Just be a decent normal person, and you'll get on fine. You don't have to act to be something else.
I always say to people, no matter what sort of services you go into, what like even a police service or anything like that, or even what level you rise to in that position, you're always dealing with people. The one constant is people. So whether it's in a service, whether it's in a corporate environment, if you can, learn those soft skills, if you can learn to interact with people, if you can motivate, if you can build rapport, if you can actually be an active listener and not necessarily just make the person think that you care. If you sincerely care, it awfully helps a lot as well to get you there. But being able to help get that across, knowing the difference between sympathy and empathy, and still being able to develop a connection with somebody, irrespective of whether or not they're gonna flipping salute you at the beginning of the day or anything like that, should be pretty irrelevant.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful.
I think getting to know people is definitely the way to kind of help manage. And and you do kind of look at your managers as you're going up. And I had a manager, and like some that were really good and some that weren't so good. And you pick the things that you think was good out of those traits, don't you, or what of previous managers.
Yeah.
So you try and put that together into what kind of manager you want to be. And I have seen some bad ones and I've seen some good ones. So I just got to remember the good ones and like the ones that were good and really good. You wanted to do something for them because you didn't want to let them down.
That's it.
You didn't want to be the one that failed the team or something. You went over and above because you wanted to help that person out and didn't want to let them down, basically. And they were the best.
Not because they're paying you, not because
hold on a minute. It's almost like a trick. The trick you into, like going over and above it.
Yeah. You know what though? That's where we kind of get into. You use the word manipulate. I'm going to use the word manipulation, and people go, "Oh, that's such a cold word. You manipulate people," and I'm like. Manipulation has been given a lot of negative connotations, but manipulation is everything. You will manipulate your partner, and people, I would never do such a thing, and you're like, well, you do because you act nice to them because you genuinely love them, but you also would like them to reciprocate. You would like them to love you back. So therefore, you treat them in a way that they want to be treated. It might be speaking nicely to them. It might be making them dinner. It might be taking them somewhere. Not these things aren't false. You want that person. If your partner likes you rubbing their neck in a certain way, well, you're going to rub the neck in a certain way, aren't you? Because you want to manipulate a situation of some form.
Well, it is. I come home to some ice cream at 10 o'clock at night a couple of months ago. I'm like, what's all this about? And she just had some news to tell me that.
But that's it. And then when
she was sweetening me up before she gave me the news.
She's a good girl. When we put those sort of concepts into into the leadership structure, if we will, and people say, manipulate. What does that mean? Well, it's even as simple as treat people how you want to be treated. Do you know what I mean? That's manipulation. Oh, well, that's not manipulation. That's just good values. Yeah, it is good values. And you want good values from that person. Therefore, you will demonstrate good values. And it is a form of manipulation. And that's absolutely fine. But
I think you're right, yeah.
It can be taken into a negative concept. You know what I mean? Where manipulation isn't honest when it's false. Do you know what I mean? Which sounds like a strange duality. But it's when people do things which are inauthentic. But they always shine through. And you reference some. And it's something I want us to get onto. But I wanted to start because I remember before we came on, we were talking about some of the work you had done with the Firefighters charity, and that was the first thing I circled it when I was writing some notes about our conversations, because there's so many awesome physical feats that are sometimes done by the Firefighters charity and all those sorts of people that get involved in it, but there can sometimes be flash in the pan ideas. Whereas, what you came up with is something that can really raise thousands and thousands of pounds, and it's something that there's very few barriers to engage with it. Tell me what it was you got on.
So, see, as I said, I work for the kind of London Fire Brigade, but I also, on my days off, I work for the Firefighters charity. So my job for them is, I'm not like on a charity or volunteer. I do actually get paid for the position. It's not a great amount of money, but they decided that they needed to pay people because the amount of kind of hours it goes through.
And they should as well. You've got to pay them.
Basically, it's a job that not many people want to do. And you've got to be a certain type, quite a confident person to be able to go and do it. And basically the job is, I go around to stations, I speak in front of retired courses, so 50, 60 people that have watch managers, firefighters coming up to retirement. That can be quite daunting in itself. And also just going around stations speaking to watches of kind of between 5 and 20 people can be quite daunting. But I've been doing it about kind of 6 or 7 years now, somewhere around there. Basically, my job is going around educate people about charity and then ask them to either sign up if they're not signed up to regular giving, or ask them to switch to direct debit if they can. If they're not, then obviously we do go. But obviously, all the services of charity are all free. And there's a wide range of services that obviously the charity does do, psychological health and well-being, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there is if anyone kind of thinks, I might need some help somewhere, then obviously there's the people got charity reps on the station and all that kind of stuff. But my idea, obviously, and it happened really because I've got to see the links between the two jobs. So I was coming off duty one morning, and the Green Watch, which is the opposite shift to me, was coming in, and they had about 4 people on overtime. And all those 4 people were bringing in Krispy Kremes. And Krispy Kremes aren't very good for you, for one. And as well, they cost about 12 to 15 quid. And each one of them people, the Green Watch had a big pile of donuts.
Obscene.
And there was only 4 of them left on duty. 5 of them, because you need minimum of 9. So there was like loads of people on overtime. And there was no way they were going to eat them all. And most of them went to waste. which is a shame.
For people that are
say.
unfamiliar with why that happens, so overtime, everybody gets what overtime is, no matter what their job is. But overtime, they're getting a pay enhancement, and it's it's definitely an unwritten rule, isn't it? That we all know you're here helping us out, great, but you're getting paid time and a half usually. So you're getting paid, a third as much money. A third again.
So it's like sharing the wealth.
We're getting paid. Yeah, so it's their way of saying, hey guys and girls, thanks for welcoming me on the watch. I'm going to share the wealth and I'm going to bring these. But you're right. When times get hard and everybody's off on holiday, you can get in a lot of overtime and you can build up some very unnecessary bad habits on watches where you're just indulging in this stuff.
Yeah. And they didn't eat it basically, and some of it went to waste. So that triggered in my mind. I was like, well, surely they can just give some of that money to charity. Like, why don't we have a texting thing where we can text in to donate a $5 or a $10 or something like that?
Yeah.
And I was driving home and I was thinking about it. I was like, I'll make a couple of calls, see what they think. So I spoke to Kate Griffiths in Firefighters charity.
Yes,
she's my manager's manager.
She's awesome.
In the charity. So I don't know if you've come across her before.
Yeah, I have. She's great.
She really liked it, and from the charity's point of view, it's quite an easy thing to do. So set up a text number, and by the time I got back on duty on my 4 days off, it was done.
Oh, really?
Posters were coming out, and then I just circulated them. Yeah, I circulated them. All I needed to do was set up a text number and make a poster. That was the two things that the charity did.
Yeah.
And then that was probably May, June time last year. And I know by the end of the year, it made over £6,000.
Mate, that
just
is
from
awesome.
Texting in.
That's awesome.
Just from texting in a $5 each time.
I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've learned about it, and I would do that 100%. And I know we're going to put this in the notes for the podcast, so for people that are listening, you just drop down and have a look under. The link of how to do this will be in there. But I'm one of those that I feel a bit funny about bringing in cakes, only because... Yeah, okay, I do a lot of fitness and all this stuff, and I'm the idiot who brings in like fruit and stuff. Fruit. I'd rather bring in bacon sandwiches for a bunch of people than bringing in bars of chocolate and cakes and stuff like that. And I know you shouldn't dictate everybody's health and wellness, but I'm so concerned about people's health and wellness and diabetes and all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to add to the problem. I can't engage in this.
I think that's there is obviously the health element to it, and I'm certainly one that needs to eat less crap like that myself. Yeah, basically texting, and the amount was dictated back and forth, and we came up with a $5 off because we thought even if you want, because people in London really, I mean, if you're going into it on overtime, it's usually between 10 and 12 quid with pay. That's the expected amount to pay on cakes and stuff like that.
What is the standard overtime pay for?
It's time and a half.
But what would that be for anybody? Because pay scales are different across the.
In London, my overtime rate is £30 an hour.
£30 an hour. So 12-hour shifts.
If I get day shift, it's 10.5 hours. So it's over 300 quid.
Yeah.
For a night shift, it's nearly 400 quid. Yeah.
Is it really? That's a significant amount of money to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, massive. Yeah. Well, I think for a firefighter, their overtime rate is about 26 quid an hour.
Still, it's not to be sniffed at. £260 a shift to be able to give part of that to the Firefighters charity. And again, I want us to go into a bit more detail about what the charity does, because that is something I'm going to be using the hell out of this thing. And I'd almost actually quite like to use it as a little bit of a we sort of do a watch pot where people make mistakes or people have a development. And they go, oh dude, that's cakes right there. If somebody dings the pump or something like that on a door,
that's what they were really excited about. And this is what, obviously last year I did it, pushed it as much as I could. It was only really went out into London. I had some contacts in West Mid, so it went out there a little bit as well. But I don't know if you heard about it before.
No, never made it to me. Never made it to me.
So never
I feel annoyed about that. But...
Yeah, so I'm open to kind of push it again and get it out. Yeah. And it's just basically post it on an email and then up at the station. When you're coming in overtime, I'm not sure if the overtime's really started flowing so much again yet, but certainly in the summer it will.
In my brigade, we're hitting a lot of overtime at the minute as we balance between recruitment and a few other things. So it's still happening quite prolifically at the minute. And obviously during the pandemic, there was people off all over the place. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. And that was probably some of the trigger for it as well. But that is still having a knock-on effect to this year. My sister works in a fire control, and she wasn't allowed to carry her leave over. But London firefighters were. We've got some people this year have got 2 years worth of leave almost.
Really?
So this year, I think it's going to, in the summertime, every single leave allocation's gone already.
There's going to be overtime.
So we're going to be, the overtime's going to be going through the roof.
Why can't your sister carry it over? I know she's obviously, is she grey book?
Grey book, yeah, I think, yeah.
Why is
I think
that?
grey book, I don't know, but yeah, I don't know if that was a thing in all of the services, but
I think for certain people it is the manager's discretion, isn't it? They which is kind of really.
Well, yeah, they said. I mean, that like people on my watch, some have got 2 years worth of leave. I mean, I use mine because I did courses. I did a load of courses and stuff like that, and just to do something, kind of put my mind to something in that. But
it's healthy
so this
as
year,
well. You know, when we think about an operational person's mindset, time off is important. You know, time off encourages people to diversify in their life a little bit, and also if they wish to, and I appreciate everybody doesn't, they can do some personal development, and that might be whatever they want. It might be yoga, it might be building a shed, it might be going on a course. Do you know what I mean? But I think the richness of a lot of operational frontline personnel is that they have really diverse backgrounds, diverse lives. So it's super important that they take it.
Yeah, definitely.
So when did you actually join the fire service?
So I joined. I was 18. Can't really.
So you came in as a baby.
I joined the local retain station, and then when I was about 20, I joined the airport fire service.
Okay.
And then 23, I went to and got in London. Basically.
Wow.
So
you were retained. Did you? Obviously, I imagine you stopped doing your on-call retain sector.
I stopped doing the retain in May 2017.
Okay.
So I did both for quite a while. Yeah.
Wow. That must have been
for about 10 years. I did both. I think.
Really.
Something like that. Anyway. Yeah, so I was.
What do you think one of the big differences is between an on-call or retained firefighter and a whole-time firefighter? Because there's lots of differences in. It's a similar job, but the cultures and the mindsets can be quite different, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think London are more kind of. They try to be more family-friendly and stuff like that, but and there doesn't seem to be any egos in London. I mean, from my experience on retain, there was a bit of ego. There was a bit of like kind of bitchiness all the time, and you know what I mean. And I've never really experienced that in London. People just go like so sometimes it's a good thing in a way, but then the other thing is it's not. It's a job to some people.
That's it. I mean, some people that
there's more to some people. It's just I'm just turning up here. I'm doing my job, and then I'm going home. That sometimes that's the way it is. But obviously, I think it's a bit more than that, and I've had a lot of people I work with do as well. They try to kind of put the best into it and everything like that. So
100%. I do a lot of things outside of my operation.
Well, yeah, that's the only thing really. There was a little bit. I don't know. I think it's just because there's and as well. I got a rank when I was 22 on the retained as well. Okay. So I joined at 18, got a rank at 22. So I was basically the youngest there by about 10 years.
Wow.
And I was the crew manager. So yeah.
How did that feel amongst?
I think it was just a bit like it was all right, and like I say, I think it was a bit of a difficult time, just someone being so young and then all of a sudden coming in, and the next thing you know, they're the crew manager and leading the team to fires and stuff like that and RTCs.
But how old were you?
I think I had
just to get my timeline in place. What age were you when you went to the airport?
20.
20. So this is the thing, because I think people always say, "Oh, experience comes with age." Well, not necessarily. You know, you could be at if we use on-call as an example, you could be at an on-call station in the middle of Scotland or whatever, where you get 50 calls a year. Do you know what I mean? You can be there for 10 years, and rightly so, you could say, "I've been a firefighter, or I've been in the fire service for 10 years." But if you were in London, or if you were in a heavily densely populated area with a lot of risk, you're in for 10 years, or even for 2 years, you might be getting 1,000 calls a year. You know, you might be attending high-rise, you might be attending, some pretty lethal road traffic collisions and stuff like that. So I always think experience is like a cube. It's not just time. It's time, it's exposure, it's personal development, it's the positions you place you're in. And so you would, off your own back, chosen to put yourself at an airport, you'd gone for that push, and then you had another 2 years with much wider diversified experience and development. So I can totally appreciate how members of Watch can be like, "You don't know you're born, you're only just in here, do your time, do your time."
That kind of stuff. That was a common thing.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten more than you know. Yeah, of course.
Well, you're the silly one who's forgot it all then.
Yeah, of course you have, you senile old fool. No, I'm joking. But that's a strange. How did you deal with that? Were you? I mean, I know you were a young lad at the time, so mentally.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit kind of cliche, but I was always pretty good at the job. Okay. So when we went to jobs, and some of it, I remember being chucked in the deep end at crew manager level. I kind of was spoke about kind of crew manager and watch manager level getting chucked in the deep end, but I was chucked in the deep end. We turned up to an RTC. I think there was 9 people, one that needed CPR, 9 people involved, serious injuries. One that was kind of ended up being a fatality. We did CPR on her, but she died. Well, yeah, that was my kind of first serious road traffic collision as a crew manager. And you know what? I made it through, and like everyone was pretty impressed. Yeah. Like someone, I was only like 22, 23 at the time. Yeah, something like that. And there was, and I got a lot of respect from that.
How do you feel about, like, sort of, I always talk to people about health. People say ego. What's the difference between ego and healthy pride? Because I always say to people, you know, I'm pretty good at my job. Yeah, I'm not the best firefighter in the world, nor will I ever be.
No.
And that's okay. I'm not the fittest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the smartest, but I'm relentless, you know, and I'm diligent. I'm really interested in it. I'm curious. I try and develop myself inside and outside the job, and that makes me good at what I do. But that can frustrate people sometimes, that when you are confident in what you do, which is good, and I celebrate confidence in all people, my children, my friends, you know, you're a confident guy, but you've got a realistic understanding of your abilities. But that can sometimes leave people wanting to see you fail. And when you talk about that baptism of fire, was the people there going, hey, you watch Nathan there, he is going to completely fall on his face here, you know, see how he deals with this one. Yeah. How, what's your thoughts on ego versus pride? Do you feel confident? Do you feel proud of what you do?
Yeah, I feel proud. I don't know. I think, I don't know. It's a tough question, really. It's very. I mean, it's probably like close, isn't it? It's probably a fine line.
It's a very, very fine line, mate. Very fine line.
Well, I think it's probably about kind of the way it comes across as well, isn't it? Like for other people when receiving it as well.
Is there something in there about self-awareness as well, though? When because a lot of people struggle with confidence.
In this job. You know, you've got to be self-aware, especially being a watchman or a leader. You've got to know your strengths and weaknesses. There's no question about that. Yeah, I mean. Job incidents, running incidents, I'm okay. I'm good at it. And I think that you've got to know your strengths and weaknesses. That's not really kind of ego-wise.
When we speak about confidence, and for me that sort of says a little bit about self-belief as well, because I think some of the greatest leaders in the fire service never actually go for it. Do you know what I mean? They never actually go for quote-unquote promotion or development. And there's an aspect that's the negative side of confidence, one of the negative sides. People go, oh no, I'm not full of myself, or it's not all about the promotions for me. And that's sometimes a lot of people's way of writing it off and saying, I'm actually a little bit scared. Or I don't necessarily believe in myself. And it can be difficult when you see so much potential in people, because I 100% believe that I work with a lot of people who are fantastic leaders, yet they don't operate in a leadership position. How do you go about taking feedback? You said, you know, it's important for you to be self-aware.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you encourage that in your team?
It is tough sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It's not the... But people are getting better at giving feedback, so it's not so kind of not so rough on you. But yeah, it is tough, and I've had some knockbacks along the way, and but you learn from it. That's the main thing. If you do get some feedback, you do something, and it's not quite right or whatever, you learn from it, and you build on your experiences and your knowledge and stuff like that. And I tend to kind of see my weaknesses, and I'm trying to challenge them. Like before, probably I'd say when I was at school, I'd rather, I don't know, chuck myself off a bridge than stand up in 250 people talking about something. And now I can do that.
It's the number one fear. Globally, public speaking is the number one fear.
Yeah, I could quite happily stand up in front of 250 people and talk about something. As long as I knew the subject, I could talk about it.
Yeah.
If it's something I didn't know, then I'll be just mumbling mess.
You said there sort of about receiving feedback and how you've sort of gotten better about it. I know conversations we've had in the past, we've spoken in around this sort of neurodiversity and people that have different challenges with their learning styles and stuff like that. You gave a great example of probably feedback that was well intended but was very, very poorly delivered. And I mean, off the back of it, you experienced some tough situations, maybe a little bit of bullying and stuff like that. What was that about? You know, I don't not to give the game away.
About the you never be good enough to be a watch manager.
Yeah, which is a pretty blanket statement, and like
and that was from my kind of manager at the time. But it was like I say, it was on the retain. And
why did he say that?
He said because he thought I was thick. I think he just thought I was stupid. Why? Because when I've developed something like I say, I know it was a weak area, so it's something I've developed and I concentrate on now. But when I send an email, sometimes it comes out like, because I'm like dyslexia, it comes out baffly boo. Like, it doesn't, some of the words are letters the wrong way around and stuff like that. And he just didn't know anything about kind of dyslexia, and he just went, "Oh, this bloke's fixed."
He had a real fixed mindset.
How can you be a watchman if you're that thick? Like you know what I mean? But on the other hand, that dyslexia gives me the ability to think differently.
Yeah.
So thinking in different ways, and there's not many times I've been incidents where I can't come up with 2 or 3 different ideas of how to do something.
I totally agree, man.
And
I
like
think
and sometimes when I think the reason why I've gone for promotion is because I come up with these ideas that I know would work, and I don't get listened to because I was a firefighter. And now, and that's not, doesn't really, maybe it doesn't happen in all brigades. I certainly don't preach that. I listen to all my firefighters. If I've got an idea, I'll go listen to it. But 100%. Back then, it was like, nah, you're a firefighter, go away. But now an officer, some of them ideas I've come up with have worked and have rescued people because of it.
Yeah.
Like, so
I think what says there is a great element of
today because
we're a master problem solver, aren't we? At the end of the day, in the fire service, rather than measuring somebody on these sort of solid fixed metrics of things like speaking and grammar or mathematical comprehension. I heard a great speaker not too long ago. It was actually a teacher for many years. And they said the current education system, and you see this in a lot of services and a lot of corporate life as well, is there's always a mark, or there's always a grading, or there's always something that happens at the end. And effectively, we're asking somebody, how smart are you? How smart are you? From our metrics, how smart are you? But what we really, and I love to see certain aspects of working life demonstrating this now, we're asking less, how smart are you? And otherwise, we're asking, how are you smart? Do you know what I mean? Because everybody has that secret superpower. It's not about... if you're judging a fish's ability to climb a tree and measuring that as their intelligence, they're going to spend their life thinking they're stupid. But unless you are being open and honest enough to say, I'm not interested in how smart you are, I'm interested in how are you smart. And like you've said there, you see the world through a different lens because of your dyslexia and because of how you've had to adapt your own characteristics to that. And you've been conditioned to take certain bits of feedback pretty bluntly at times. And that will have hardened your resolve, I suppose, to continue to push yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it definitely is a way of, it gives you a different view on things. Obviously, I didn't know this because it's always the way I've seen things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
And it's always been, and I didn't know that I was sending emails and it came across I was thick, because it didn't really, having a couple of words the wrong way round or letters wrong, it doesn't really matter to me. I still see it the same word.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know that. So that guy telling me I was fit, it opened my eyes. I think, well, maybe I should concentrate harder to make sure, because it just means I want to write something. I have to kind of read through it a couple of times, and maybe sometimes, if it's an important email, get someone else to check it before I kind of send it.
Well, there's a lot of tools out there as well now, isn't there? That,
but there is, And I think there's one called Dictate that I use on my laptop, and it's absolutely brilliant. I just talk to it, it writes it down.
I've got a dragonfly system.
Big words I've never even.
It's fantastic.
It's brilliant. Yeah, there's a massive big words that I've never even knew how to spell before, and now all of a sudden I can spell fine.
Yeah, but also they're a huge time saver. I do a lot of dictation in the things that I do because massive time saver in terms of if you're not quick enough or anything on a typewriter, or if you're just, there's loads of barriers to engaging in technology, but we're getting to a point where we're harnessing it to support people that have those challenges with standard academics. And you see this in schools a lot as well. We've got tools now which can help children that would have otherwise spent their entire academic career thinking they're stupid. They just didn't have the right tools to demonstrate how they are clever, how they are smart. When did you first realize you were dyslexic?
It wasn't until I was probably about 25, 26.
So you went through school and nobody at any point able to identify and support you and say, Nathan, have we ever tested Nathan for dyslexia?
It wasn't until I became I was a crew manager on the retains, and then it was being picked up, and someone said, do you think you might have dyslexia?
Yeah.
I was like, well, I could have. I mean, I don't know. I'd do the test. So I did the test with the union, and it came back, dyslexia and dyspraxia. So,
How did it feel when you got told that?
It kind of, it did explain a bit why I'm so stupid. Within them.
No.
Well, a lot of them.
And this is the problem.
Yeah.
You still need to turn around that self-talk because you've been conditioned to talk to yourself that way. The problem is, everywhere you go, there you are, and you're always talking to yourself, and everything you say, you hear. And if you repeat those things, the rest of the world is there to put you down. I know. Yeah. You've got to be careful, though.
But yeah, everyone has kind of strengths and weaknesses, and it is one of the things that now I know I can obviously concentrate on those weaknesses, and I can look at it from other people's point of view, like I say, and how it kind of comes across. I don't advertise the fact that I'm dyslexic, really. No? My line manager knows because she's been doing my PDR, and she can just tell from the typing, because I haven't got a dictator work, so I've got it on my laptop, but I haven't got it on my on there. So when I'm writing up evidence, I
mean, it's important for us to acknowledge and put a little bit of effort and stuff into our weaknesses or development areas, depending on what terminology people are more familiar with. But do you think we should necessarily always be working on our weaknesses? When you think about like an effort matrix, if we had 100% of effort, how much of that would you place into developing a weakness, or how much would you place into further developing a strength?
I'll probably say I'll put probably about 50% onto developing a weakness.
You see, now I work on my strengths far more than I do my weaknesses. I do work on my weaknesses, but I appreciate that I'm an addict. Do you know what I mean? I'm quite an intense kind of guy. I can be difficult for some people to spend long periods of time with, but it also is a tremendous strength in ways when I want to get things done, or I want to focus in hard, or when I want to have what some might consider an intense conversation with somebody, which is effectively the podcast. It can be quite revealing and in depth, but people don't necessarily want to have these conversations all the time. So that's the aspect that can be difficult. A development area for me is being able to discuss things that live in the world of mediocrity. I struggle with that a lot. But I don't spend a massive amount of time working on it. I need to be good enough to build rapport with people, but I would rather have a greater strength of being able to have meaningful conversations with people rather than having a strength of being able to engage in mediocrity on a daily basis, because I think that's where the bigger wins are for me. Now, you were operational in London during some quite challenging times. There's been some big incidents happen in London, and when we talk about feedback, I'm sure the brigade as a whole has received a hell of a lot, and you came into a leadership role in and around potentially one of London's biggest incidents in easily the last couple of decades.
So I was I was crew manager plus the called it there. So basically, I was crew manager, but I was able to act up to watch manager. So on the night of 13th of June 2017, so I was going into a night shift. I was acting watch manager that night, and I got sent to Grenfell Tower on a mate pumps 8.
So that was quite early on in the incident, just to make pumps 8.
I think the time of call was about 20 past 1. Yeah. So. Yeah, quite early on. So got involved in quite a varied of different things.
Did you know what it was when you're on your way? Obviously, on the tip-out sheet, it will have said high-rise fire.
It said high-rise. Yeah. It said high-rise fire. But yeah, it just said high-rise. It was an 8-pump fire. But the thing what kind of sparked it on the way was a bit more than that, was because we had the mate pumps 10, then mate pumps 15, then mate pumps 20.
Wow. Before you'd even arrived?
Yeah.
Crikey. So rapid escalation of this incident.
Yeah, so he'd obviously Mike Dowden, who was the initial officer in charge, made it up pretty sharpish, and we were just about getting there. And then just as I was arriving, I could see North Kensington's machines there, and the control was trying to get through to them, but there was no, because they were running, obviously putting in, kind of dragging people and stuff like this. So, the message come through, fire survival guidance messages, basically, and I took the first 3 fire survival guidance messages that come, and there were people trapped in the tower. Obviously, I'm not going to go through kind of what floors and whatnot. I do remember.
Yeah. What is fire? It sounds obvious, but what is fire survival guidance?
Is basically when someone's trapped in their apartment or house or whatever. We have a procedure called fire survival guidance. So the control will talk to that person in there or people and say, okay, you need to go, if you can get out, get out. If you can't, usually the reason why they're calling is because they've opened the front door and there's smoke and they can't get out.
They're trapped,
That's the be all and end all, a reason why they usually call.
Yeah.
So they then speak to control, they tell him to put kind of coats around the kind of door and whatnot, open a window, try and get some fresh air in, and then we'll kind of say, then that message from control goes to the fire ground, and then that's where I picked it up.
So in theory, and again, not specific to Grenfell, but it would be an example of somebody says, I'm in my back bedroom, it's at the back of the house, and they'd be feeding all that through, and then you'd hear it and they'd go, right, there's a mother, 2 children in the back bedroom, they've opened the window, they've got clean air, but there is some smoke ingress under the door, and we know that most domestic does, because the idea is all fire stations should ideally make an attendance in around 10, 12 minutes, something like that, depending on your area. The door's going to buy them potentially 30 minutes, maybe longer, depending on what sort of door it is. So that gives that specific, so the firefighter or the crew, commander, crew, watch manager, whatever, doesn't have to do a massive search of the entire property. They can potentially pitch a ladder straight to their particular location.
That's it. But I mean, I passed the information on to the command unit and to the incident commander. I mean, I mentioned his name because everyone knows he was the.
And it's important to acknowledge him. You know, anybody that's listening operationally.
He was and he was the initial incident commander. So I passed it on to Mark as well. So that's the information.
There must have been hundreds of calls of fire guidance, because when you think about fire guidance at a property, there might be 1 or 2. Do you know what I mean? Because it's usually normally, 1 or 2 people that are trapped.
Well, we have it now. If you've got more than 3, that's multiple FSG. So that means that you get more command units, you get more officers, stuff like that.
Because I imagine the regional control, they must have been overwhelmed. They couldn't take 160 calls, as well as trying to do the logistics of getting all the resources.
So they were going out to pinning out to other brigades, and my sister works in Leicestershire, right? And she actually got a call.
They got a call all the way down there. Wow,
all the way in Leicestershire.
So there's lots of brigades between there and Leicestershire. That's amazing.
So if no one answers, it goes to another brigade, doesn't it? Who can? So I don't know how it exactly works, whether it pins out closest first, but it went out to someone who could answer the phone basically, and it went there. So
that's crazy.
So it went pretty far and wild. Yeah, and obviously I'm on the ground. We didn't know any all that kind of going on later on. We were just concentrating on what we were doing. So.
Obviously, I don't want to get into the. We're not going to do too much of the formal reviewing of the incident, because I know all that's still in a lot of courts proceedings, stuff like that. But what was the feeling like? Because the heat must have just been immense. It's quite a densely populated area, and surrounding buildings aren't really that far away.
No, it was. I mean, like I say, we went on the 8, and we had to get off and run the last 1,000 yards. We couldn't get anywhere near it.
Really?
It was. There was obviously a lot going on. The BA team, I didn't see them for 5 hours or nothing.
Wow.
Which was pretty worrying. I remember going back to the machine and to seeing if they were there by any chance or whatever. But what had happened, and credit to them, they'd gone up, come back down, changed the cylinder, gone up, come back down, changed the cylinder, gone up, come back down. I think they were about 5 times, 4 or 5 times. Yeah. Which now is against procedures, because now we have a minimum of hour rest if you had a hot wear. But
has that come in since? Has that come in since?
That's come in since, yeah.
Right.
So
was there some real heat stress and stuff people were dealing with?
Yeah, the heat stress. Realistically, you'd be expected to have a 20-minute. It wasn't a written policy, but you were expected to have a 20-minute rest really between wears. But what was happening, they were getting that anyway because they were queuing up. Yeah. So we had a queue of BA wearers, obviously,
at staging area. Isn't it? That's just bonkers.
All just waiting to go to get. But you're gonna. Well, I mean, a metre wide staircase, you can only fit so many people in there.
Yeah.
So they were basically queuing up in the staging area to go up to the bridgehead and then up there. But yeah.
Isn't it strange though? Because that again is an aspect of self-awareness. Being able to recognise when is enough, when am I? Yeah. But the emergency services has a very flexible, by our own, this is a beast we've created, and I'm just as bad. I've got quite a risk appetite, and if I always say in our fire training unit that if I get to the first floor and I find 3 adults, they're usually all coming out with me. Yeah. And people are like, oh, that's stupid, Pete. That's against manual handling. Yeah, it is. But you know what? With all due respect, when you're cutting somebody out of a vehicle, when you're trying to it doesn't go out the window, but it becomes very flexible. And I can just I can't imagine, but I can feel that people that were at the incident, yourself, all these other firefighters were like, It needs to be done. We've got to do it. There's no, I get it. I know I'm struggling, but I want to go back in. I want to. Well, that's what they join the job for. They want to make the difference, but that can very quickly, if you don't maintain, especially with dehydration and heat exhaustion and stuff like that, your own self-awareness can really lead to some dangerous stuff.
Yeah. There were some senior officers who obviously came up to the brigade, and they were really giving it to people, saying, "Are you ready for this? Like, this is going to be like this is serious. Like, this is the job of all jobs. Like, you're going to go and rescue people. You need to be ready for this." Yeah. And they were probably like, it was almost like kind of rugby. Getting people up.
Yeah. Well, you need. I suppose if you've got a line of people, they're all waiting, and they've got that anticipation. Now, some people thrive off it, but some people can also lose it. Do you know what I mean? Their rational thought goes out the window, and they need that moment to say, are you all right?
Especially
are you ready for this? Don't forget your principles. Don't forget your procedures. Don't forget your sweep and stamp and all that sort of stuff. That needs to be. That's when you need to remember your fundamentals, because you'll fall to the level of your training. Not always rise to the situation.
Yeah.
Let's think about it. Let's switch on.
Let's switch on. Yeah.
So for people that are unfamiliar, and I just wanted to capture this because I know you referenced it earlier, and again, we're not saying procedures are right or procedures are wrong, but at that moment in time, watch commanders or watch managers weren't required, or you weren't. Was it not part of your role to wear BA?
We still do in London. Watch managers, even now on the new rank system, station officers do wear BA and still have a requirement, but it's not really something that's done very often. And really, it was more the fact that I heard on the radio. I mean, this was like kind of 3 a.m. They were wanting, but I also had a conversation with a station manager who was there at the time, and he said, "Look, you've done enough." Like, at that point, I'd done CPR on 2 people.
It's even for me, or for anybody. I don't think they can truly comprehend what you guys and girls went through on that day.
I think it's it's definitely
scary.
But it's obviously afterwards we've seen the kind of the story TV episodes, like programs and things like that, and there was I mean, it looked really close on camera. I'm not sure it was that close in my reality anyway, from what I remember it. But someone shouted at the back behind me. There's loads of people started watching from the other flats and stuff like that. Someone shouted, "Get out of the way," or something. And when you're in the fight, you just move, don't you? You don't look up. No. You talk, just to step back or move.
Stand from under. Don't look up and see what it's coming.
Yeah, don't look up.
Just get out of the way. Keep your head down.
Yeah, just get out of the way. And I remember someone shouting, "Get out of the way," or something like that. And I just stepped back. And then there was this, I mean, it must have been 3 meters long and 2 meters wide of sheet metal, basically.
Jesus.
Come and go in front of me. And this was one that was on the kind of TV. And I was like, I remember it being close, but it looks even closer on camera. And people were watching, because that would have probably took me head off.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I mean, it was...
how was it? And I want to come back to all kinds of things. I've got a million questions, but how did your partner feel looking back on that? When you come back from work and you go, "Oh man, pretty rough shift last night, babe." You know what I mean?
Obviously, she's got a picture of she put it on the telly. Woke up in the morning, put it on the telly when she was in bed, and there's a picture of her and the dog watching it on TV. Oh, really? And I was still there at the time. Yeah, it was. I think I left about 10:30 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah.
So I still, so I didn't even, we're supposed to obviously finish at 9:30, but I was, there from about 1:30, something like that. Well, it's been tough on her, really. She's, because obviously I was PTSD and stuff like that from it. It's something that I think a lot of people have. A lot of people kind of struggled with. I've been really lucky that we've got a really, really good bunch of people on our watch, and we've really looked after each other. Yeah. And the fun thing about kind of, it's like the watch culture type thing. It does get you through it, and like we've all gone there. Every single member on my watch went to that, and so we were all there. We were all kind of looked after each other from it, and built on from there. Sometimes I think, obviously, because we were kind of managers, me and my station officer, I think we were kind of looking at everybody else all the time, and then took our eyes off our own kind of well-being at some time, at some point. But it still does affect me. I mean, we only did a high-rise exercise the other day, and we were doing an FSG exercise at a tower block.
Yeah.
And it was obviously bringing back kind of memories, and it's just because it takes you back to that moment in a way.
Scary
because I was doing
anchor.
FSG because I was doing FSG on the night, and then we're doing an FSG exercise where you kind of, because they were throwing loads at us.
Yeah.
I think there was about 8 they threw at us, and then we have to feed it back, and then obviously commit people and stuff like that, all at the same time, because they made the procedures a bit more to it, basically, with the procedures now. Okay. So when you have to write it down, pass a slip, pass it over the radio, and get the slip, and then you have to make sure it's fed back as well. But once you get into that, you kind of get into that mode, don't you? And then that's it. Then you're in there. And then back, you're kind of backing away.
When you get many things colliding emotionally, the heat, the stress, the smell, the words, all of these anchors, that if enough of them line up close enough to each other, it fires that mental pathway. That synapsis just clicks, and you get that recollection. It takes you back to where you were, and that's a very real thing that a lot of people struggle with. Yeah,
you talk about the smell. We had Adele come to the station a couple of days after.
Did she really?
Wow.
That's surreal.
Yeah. She came in, and one of the firefighters made her cry because she had a helmet that she hadn't. It was for our first morning back on, and we were going out to do a kind of, I think it was a 70-second silence or something. Yeah. Obviously, everyone who died. One of the firefighters putting a helmet on, and Adele could smell it, and she burst out into tears, because obviously she grew up in London. I think she knows people that live around that estate, and it's an area that she knows well, and it's obviously just devastating. And she was going there, she just went, God, that's what it actually smells like, and
it stinks, doesn't it? Does stink,
and it she just burst into tears. Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers.
Some people can be quite romantic about working in a city and stuff like that, but is that? Do you get those moments? Obviously, you had it there where somebody like Adele, crikey, worldwide sensation. You must see people every now and again and think, "Wow, that's so and so."
Remember John? Do you remember John Cleese?
Yeah, John Cleese.
From Towers. Yeah.
I love John Cleese. Absolutely love John Cleese.
Yeah, we had a fire in his flat, and and every time I see that video, I'm flapping when he had this fire.
What's the porter's name, or what's the
Manuel?
Yeah. Oh my God. They only made something ridiculous, like not many episodes. They didn't make many episodes of Fawlty Towers. Yeah. It's legendary. John Cleese. Yeah. But you forget these people are just people. When you strip all of that away, they're just people. I wanted to.
Well, it's funny.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just about to say, when Adele came, and I'm not from London, I'm from like a small town in the Midlands, and obviously I just kind of took the job wherever it was going, and I've done a commuting thing. I did live in London for about 6 months, but I've done the commuting thing since then.
What was it like living in London? That must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, it was all right. It was Clapham. I lived in Clapham. I just rented a room. I had a house up here, so I bought a house when I was about 19, 20. So I had a house here, so I thought, and it was a bit of a kind of market crash at the time, so to sell it I would have lost money, and then I would have been paying kind of £700 a month to rent a room when I could pay £450 and have a mortgage and just commute. So
do a lot of firefighters tend to live outside of London? Yeah, I know we've had several on the podcast, and a lot of them say, anything that's roughly an hour away from London tends to be the sort of areas. What's your commute like? How long does it take you to get in?
It's about 2 hours 20.
2 hours 20. Wow.
Yeah, but I've got I have a boat in Chepperton that I keep down there. Yeah, so I actually brought it after Grenfell. I was on and on about it, and I was like, and that job happened. I went,
a boat. I love that.
So sorry, you only live once.
Yeah, baby. Is it like a little narrow boat or?
No, it's a coastal cruiser. I brought it from Ramsgate, and I had to bring it up around the coast and through the mouth of the Thames. At the time, I was going Chiswick, and I had a couple of mates with me, and we did not.
I bet I was a scream.
I mean, I only really had the confidence to do that because I've done the fire boat in London as well.
Oh, yeah. So you know what? This is such a diverse thing that London do, because they have all the boat stuff, don't they?
Yeah, so they have the fire boat. So it's a standalone kind of station that goes up and down with the tide, basically. We call it the pontoon.
Yeah.
So when the tide comes in and out, it obviously goes up, and the boats are attached to that. So it's basically a long, thin station. It's got all the accommodation you expect. Probably it hasn't got snooker tables.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't want to play that one in terms of
on a pontoon. It'd be pretty pointless, wouldn't it? It hasn't actually got a treadmill either, because they've been that. kind of a bit dangerous because obviously there's rocking. Because it does rock a little. Obviously, it goes up and down. So it does move a little.
Yeah. Mind you, I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want to be squatting or bench pressing or anything on that as well. But anyway, we digress.
So yeah, the fire boats. It is. I mean, I'm very lucky to be one of the few people that train. I think there's only about 6 or 7 sub officers that are actually trained to go there.
Oh.
And I was just in the right place at the right time, because I started off in Westminster, and they wanted people close by to do the fire boat. Yeah. So I basically did that. Good thing to do.
How expensive is it to keep a boat in London?
Sorry?
How expensive is it to keep a boat?
It's about, the mooring's about $280 a month.
Really?
Yeah, so it does cost, but it's my kind of hobby. It's my thing that I...
Plus, it gives you crash space.
Also, it saves us. Yeah, so we went down on the weekend. We went out in London and then go back to the boat. It saves us on hotels, really, as well. And we can take the dog.
100%.
So, yeah.
Because that's the big challenge, isn't it? There's a massive cost otherwise, time and money for people to be travelling back and forth from those places. It can get a bit crazy at times, I imagine.
I mean, I'm quite lucky. I've got the boat, and then my brother lives in central London as well now. He lives about 10-minute walk from the fire boat. Actually, he lives. Really? He was like, "Why are you still not here?" Because I live 10 minutes walk away from there now. Yeah, I know. Well, I only went there for about 9 months on like kind of just widening kind of experience, because I'd always done reserve there, so I'd always been there every now and again. But I've never been stationed there permanently, so I went there for about 9 months for a kind of a period. I think that was 2019. Yeah.
I want us to go back to some of the leadership aspects. We spoke a lot about it at the beginning of our talk today, and I really wanted to, I know I don't want to force you into a corner, but you've experienced the good and the bad. And, not necessarily going as far as to saying people have been bullied, but it does happen when we talk about bullying and banter and stuff in the services. But what do you think are some of the key leadership aspects that people have to embody if they're going to become a great leader? I
think it's obviously knowing your job and your role. I think knowing the ins and outs of the policies, you've got to be able to perform really as a leader on the incident ground as well as the training ground. But I think the main thing really is getting to know people and understanding people, people's different strengths. The more you get to know them, the more they'll show you their strengths and weaknesses and things like that. So we pick out people who've got strengths of something and weaknesses and something else, and we do it all the time. Sometimes it's about using them strengths, or sometimes it's about building someone's weaknesses.
I always talk to people about sunshine and shadows. Do you know what I mean? If somebody's got a real big strength, like I'm the expert in trauma care, okay, that's your sunshine, but you're unaware of the shadow that casts on a lot of other members of the team, which is
people,
there's no point me even trying, because Dave's the best at trauma care, or Sally always takes the lead on water courses. Do you know what I mean? You go, well, what if Sally's off? What if Dave's off? Do you know what I mean? And it's being honest to people and saying, like, I know you're the expert, but do you mind if I jump in? Or it's got to take a bold leader to say, right, no, you step away. I know you know what you're doing, but I need to get Sarah involved.
And I did. There was people wanting to come in, and I moved them out of the way and said, no, get in, because, and I have it in my mind that, oh no, once you've done it once, you're a lot more confident the second time.
Yeah.
And that showed when he went and someone dropped in front of him, and he was off duty, but he did actually end up going back to the sports ground and getting a thank you from them, officially.
I think one of the biggest aspects of it is confidence. Because if you might have done all the courses in existence for trauma care and stuff like that, but I think naively perhaps that 80% of it is confidence. Because if you step up and you're not confident with what you're doing and everybody's watching, that person's on the ground, if you start fumbling about, then you're going to kill them. This person's going to kill them. They don't know what they're doing. They're going to kill them. Get in there, start your compressions, do your rescue breaths, whatever it may be, whatever you're most familiar with, your 30-2, whatever you have been taught, just confidently begin. Just begin. Start doing something. That's difficult for people.
Especially in London, you're under the magnifying glass all the time. And I've had to go up to people once we've been doing CPR, somebody in the street, like come off the motorbike or whatever. And I've had to go to people and said, why have you just recorded someone die? Like, and obviously you can't go too hard, because I'm just asking a question, but makes them think, why am I being weird? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I said, can I ask you a question? I said, why have you just recorded somebody die? And was it necessary?
Yeah.
And they were like, I just walked off.
Yeah. Some people will go,
like, that's all what I wanted. I just
what's your problem? Or, nothing to do with you. It's like, why are you doing it?
Like,
why are you doing it?
And like people recording from buses and stuff, and they were banging up and down on someone's chest, and they're recording, and like, it's just odd. Like, if that was a member of their public or a member of their family, or devastating, like, you can't.
It's scary, mate. It's scary.
But it is a common. Well, obviously before kind of lockdown, everyone gets, as soon as you turn up a job now, people have cameras out all the time.
You've got to be super careful. Sad.
Yeah.
Sad that we say careful. You've got to be that way.
It's one of them things. It's an added pressure that you never really had before. And like going back to that FSG thing the other day, we're doing that, and then we got back to the station, sat around, have a cup of tea and a lunch and that. And he looked on social media. Someone slating us for how we parked outside the high-rise. Yeah. I'm just like, just can't win. Like, whatever you do, you just can't win. Someone's put it on, took loads of pictures of all the vehicles, and then put it on Facebook on one of the London sites, and then people are slating us for how we parked.
Yeah.
So it's like, I said, I told you not to park there.
No. So I think what a common theme I'm hearing from here, because like you say, outside of the walls of a station, outside of the boundaries of a watch, there can be a lot of criticism, there can be a lot of judgment and stuff like that. Sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly. We want to encourage feedback and things like that. But I wanted to ask you about sort of the value of association, because you've clearly, even in your decision to move to one of the biggest brigades in the UK, you've made a decision to put yourself around people operating at the tip of the sword, if you will, really on the front line at the coalface. How much do you think value of association plays a role? And how much do you think people around you have an impact on the way you see the world, and how optimistic, how motivated, or how ambitious you are when you go to work every day? Do you think that has a massive effect on you, or are you the sort of person that thinks, oh no, doesn't matter what anybody says, I'm fine?
No, I think it does have an effect, and people around you do definitely have some kind of effect on you.
100%.
Positive and negative kind of thoughts, really.
Yeah.
It can be either. You do find yourself sometimes, if you kind of go into a watch, like, so I've done bits of temporary and stuff. You go into a watch and they're like really negative about something and stuff like that. I think after a while, it just kind of grinds you down, and you do potentially become or start feeling negative about that subject as well. So, and then on the other hand, obviously the positive stuff. So, but again, it's a kind of self-awareness, isn't it? It's about kind of, I'm getting engrossed in all that. I don't need to be. Like, why am I thinking about this stuff that's
totally
not really relevant?
There's so many people
or like
walking around
about something that's it's not really even that relevant. Like, why are we?
People are walking around like garbage trucks, some people, and they've got garbage and they want to dump it somewhere, and then so many people allow people to dump that garbage into their mind. If somebody came into your living room now and threw bags of rubbish all over the floor, we'd soon fall out. Do you know what I mean? There'd soon be a very passionate discussion had. But how many people allow people to walk into their world and start dumping negativity into their mind? And some people could say, no, it doesn't affect me, and they just needed to unload. And you're like, you've got to be aware of the people that you're putting yourself around, I personally feel, because it's not a dare. It's not like, are you tough enough to withstand it? It's going in there. It's going in your mind. It's changing your perception. It's giving you a different lens that you're looking at reality, because they're placing the focus on the negative, and what people focus on is eventually what they're going to feel. And if people are giving you nothing but the negatives, it could be difficult to overcome that. Do you see yourself as quite an optimistic person?
I'm open. I'm happy medium. Yeah, I'm not too optimistic. Realistic, really.
You're not high-fiving the mirror in the morning.
No. Hopefully, I'm kind of in the middle. Sometimes people do say you're a little bit like negative, but when I think, well, something ain't going to work, if I kind of think it's a non-starter, I'll say. And some people are like, you've been in negative, and then sometimes those things do work or they don't work out.
So Nath, we're getting to that sort of part of the chat where I'm going to ask you some quick fire ones at the end. But before we do that, I remember reading a lot sort of after Grenfell had happened. And I don't know if it was just born by sort of firefighters' desire to help, but there was a whole kind of like DIY SOS thing that went on. Now, for anybody that's unaware, what was that? What support did it get, and how do people go about doing it?
So, the DIY SOS is Mick Knowles' program, isn't it? Who basically goes around the country and they help people rebuild houses if they've like the kind of if they've been kind of made homeless or kind of
facing a big challenge.
So
the community sort of comes together or whatever.
One of the ones they did before Grenfell, it really was emotional, was the police officer that became disabled following from one of the terrorist attacks, and they refitted his house so he could live an independent life, which is quite amazing, and it was really emotional kind of episode with that as well. But yeah, the DIY, they basically said they were going to because at the bottom of Grenfell was the Dale Youth Boxing Club.
Oh, really?
So they said we're going to rebuild that and the community centre. So
that's
what they
some
did
big
was
projects.
they got a bit of land which is under the Westway, which is obviously a road leading out of London, and they built the Dale Youth and a community centre under there.
Wow. I mean, getting hold of land in London at all must be pretty ridiculously expensive.
Yeah,
anyway.
so there must have been a lot under the Westway.
Must have had a lot of support for it. So, what sort of role did some of the
it was an amazing project.
Yeah, what roles did the operational personnel? Because you guys people were helping out as well.
Within a couple of weeks, it come from one of our senior officers to say that DIY SOS wants volunteers to volunteer firefighters to come and do it. So we got 5 people together per day for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
So we were doing it. I mean, I did it personally between my nights, and obviously my first night and after my second night and stuff like that. And there were, but for 6 weeks we had firefighters from the Kensington Chelsea area volunteer and all we're doing was like kind of dog's bodies, we were carrying stuff, and I mean some of the we managed to kind of put some of the paneling up and things like that. So it was quite good. And then
that must have been amazing to be involved in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and working with Nick Knowles. I mean, to be fair to him, he is dedicated to that program 110%.
Yeah,
honestly.
He looks like a grafter.
When you look at it, you think, oh, he probably just sit. Well, he's not. He's a leadership role, but he is there. He's the first one there in the morning, last one to leave at night. And you can give all credit to that bloke really for those programs, because he is a massive driver behind it. And I've got some funny videos of us carrying stuff. And Billy Burns, he's a hilarious bloke.
Yeah.
Have you seen the program? Yeah. He's absolutely there. Well, we'll carry. We've got a video of this massive frame, right? This massive window frame.
Yeah.
It took 6 of us to carry it, right? We're all carrying it along, and he was like, wait. And then just walks through it and goes, carry on. I think if you see the video, it's quite funny. And then I'm a bit of a Friends geek, you know, the TV program Friends.
Yeah, oh, mate.
So when we were moving it around, I was at the back there going,
pivot. I love it. Ross is going up the stairs with the sofa.
Exactly like that, yeah. It made it good fun. It was.
I bet they got some. Didn't some royalty someone come and help out, or somebody?
Prince William came. Yeah, Prince William came.
Oh, bless him. Did he help out?
He come with a massive. I wondered why there was a load of police turn up and all these.
Oh yeah, crikey! I bet they go with a hell of an escort.
And we just turned up to one day, and it was like, what's all this police about, and security and all this kind of stuff? What's all this about? And it turned up. Prince William turned up, and he did come over and say, like, kind of thanks to us all, had some nice things to say. I was the last one he met, and, obviously, because I was at the back actually doing some work, painting.
Oh no! Well, is nobody doing anything then, or what? I'll just crack on.
I don't think the other firefighters got the message about to actually do some painting. Well, I was about to do some painting, and he nearly missed me. So I obviously went over and said, "Look, I'm sorry, I was at the back there," and then shook his hand and stuff. And he said, "I said, oh, I've been told that I've got a face for radio, so I was just at the back there, out of the way." And he laughed and he said, "I've been told that before." And I very nearly told him no, like jokingly. But it turns out he had quite a relatively normal kind of childhood. People did like.
I think they were very conscious to protect how much exposure they had as children. It wasn't until they got into their late teens that
he actually came across as really kind of decent guy. So
it seems awesome.
Yeah, it was nice to. Like, he's potentially one of the 9.
I think Harry's my favourite though. I'd quite like to have Harry on the podcast. He seems like a bit of a lad. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to have a chat about something, because they do a lot of great charity work as well.
They all do. Yeah, they all do. So, which is good. But yeah, it's quite of I've never very near. I wonder what will happen, whether I got dragged out or something. Well, he did say it was very, very positive towards the fire service, and he said, you're like basically the working heroes of the country, and like it was something that I kind of remember him being so positive.
Sometimes I do feel for them, to be honest, because I know, like Prince William, for example, wanted to. He's had an operational career as such in the military, and I'm reading some of the people that worked with them. Incredibly hard for them to actually get out there and get that exposure, because there's so much protection around them, and for them to even, I mean, if they wanted to be a firefighter, for example, pretty much wouldn't be able to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's not realistic for them to even try and do it. And I know the logistical nightmare listening to, I think it was Richard Barnett. Yeah, Lord Richard Barnett, who was in charge of the British military during the time, trying to get some of those two out there to get operational experience in the field was just a logistical nightmare, because they couldn't let anybody know about what they were doing, and they have such armed escorts everywhere they go. So, and I know, that they were just born into that situation, but you got to feel for them sometimes. It can't be nice. Can't be nice.
I mean, I covered because I was at Westminster when I first went to London, and it's about 10 years now, I think, actually, since their wedding.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to be kind of on duty covering their wedding. It was.
Did you see Pippa?
It was pretty crazy. Like, there was people queuing up for maybe 2-3 weeks beforehand on the mount, camping out. So they're in tents, camping out just to get a seat, like a front row seat when they go past. Jeez. Imagine we've been waiting there for 3 weeks, and what you've been waiting for happens, and they must have gone absolutely nuts.
That's it.
They were camping out all down the melt for 2-3 weeks before. Absolute bonkers.
That is bonkers.
Well, that's how they go mad for the royals, don't they? Like, it never kind of have a normal wedding, can it?
We're quite lucky at the fact in certain ways, whilst some of it is just a position of, they don't necessarily take too much action in government or anything anymore, but we're quite lucky to have them, and I know that they inspire a lot of people. One of our sort of quick fire questions for the end is, I wanted to ask you, who inspired you as a kid? You say you joined the fire service when you were 18. Who inspired you? What inspired you?
It was actually one of my friends' kind of dads. I mean, I didn't have a dad growing up. My dad passed away when I was about 4. I was always like kind of, my friends' dads were kind of role models and things like that. So one of my friends' dads was a retained firefighter, and that got me interested in it.
Yeah.
And I knew what retained. As soon as I turned 18, most people don't even know what retained is, do they?
No.
And then I turned 18 and applied and got in. And then when I was doing my training, I was just like,
what was it about the person that inspired you? What was it about the idea of the fire service that made you want to go for it?
I think it was initially kind of dropping everything, running off, and going to do something to help people. Basically, I think it was that was the kind of initial thing behind it. Yeah, it was that the kind of, because you only really, obviously, I hadn't really seen him and then screaming off in a fire engine. Didn't really see anything else to it. So, but yeah, that was definitely and I was only that kind of 12 or 13, obviously, time seeing that. So
makes a big impression.
Well, yeah, I remember one time we were all asleep. We used to like stop over sometimes, all asleep in his front room, and he'd come running through, stepping over to his pages going on.
And you're like, where's he going? What's he doing? Oh, he's got to go to a job. He's got, and you'll hear the fire. And later, 2 or 3 minutes later, you'd hear the fire engine in town just screaming out.
Yeah.
And you're like,
so it was actually,
Jesus, they're on it.
So people you kind of look up to, and
a big impression.
Yeah.
Have you ever been afraid in the job?
I don't know. There is things that obviously worry, and it's usually not about myself. It's about other people.
Yeah.
I was pretty just because it's not really something you come across all the time when you send somebody and you can't contact with somebody, or someone's had an injury. One of the worst things, fortunately, it wasn't as bad as what it initially sounds, is that basically when you go to a job and you come back with one less person, that ain't something that terrifies you. And it has happened a couple of times, once, twice. But there's usually been accidents where they've then had to go to hospital and you've come back with one person, less person because they've gone to hospital to get checks or something. Thankfully, but yeah, it's not. That does kind of because I take personal obviously responsibility for these for people, and it is scary that they're kind of in a way they're like
once they go through that door as well, you can make all the right decisions you like, but when they head into the risk area, there's a massive amount of personal accountability that you've put all the risk mitigation in place, but there's still going to be an element in there. There's always a chance that person will get hurt.
The one time springs to mind where he was someone on exchange, so I didn't even work with him, but he was the most senior kind of, he was done 30 years in Shoreditch. He was a really experienced guy. So we got called to a high-rise in East London, block of flats. So we did everything right. Just for a reason. I didn't notice anything on the outside. There was no panels going off. We got called to fire on like the ninth floor or something like that. So sent him up to the bridgehead with a crew manager, set everything up, and then two of them, the BA team, went up to investigate because there was no other signs of anything. No signs of smoke, no signs of fire, no AFA going off. It was just a call to the ninth floor. So what we did, he went in, did all the right checks and everything, opened the door, just a haze. It's like just a haze of smoke. Yeah. So he was looking around, looking for where this, he thought it burnt toast or something or whatever, which happens more often than a fire. So looking around, and then he's opened up the microwave, gone like that, and there's a bug bomb just on the side there. You know, the you know what I mean? Where they basically kill all the pesticides. Yeah. And just as it's bent down, it's gone off in his face.
Jesus.
It's gone off his face. And these are like the risks that you've never even, like training school, have never even thought of it. No. So
some of those stuff can be quite toxic, corrosive. Some of it it's not nice.
Oh yeah, stuff. It must be. He took a lungful of it and gone down.
Jesus.
And then the next thing I get is a radio saying, "It's gone down. We've got him. It's gone down." I thought they'd got somebody. They'd rescued somebody.
Yeah.
But luckily, the bridgehead was already kind of nearly. It was 90% there, so it had the IC pack. So they went up and then obviously met him on the bridgehead and gave him oxygen and kind of brought him back round. But he went kind of semi-unconscious, which is quite kind of concerning. And obviously we had a lot of then kind of paperwork. But he went to the hospital, and then we went back to station. By the end of the shift, he was back at station, which is oh God, it was fine.
Scary though. Potential for that.
Yeah. It's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. But yeah. So I have been scared,
Are there any books, films, documentaries, or things that you've utilised, resources, apps, for your own sort of personal development? Is there anything that you really feel has helped you out in your working towards, being a watch commander, watch as you are now?
Yeah. I mean, I did a course last year at the college, which is kind of related to fire safety, and I've got loads of stuff on there. So it was more like YouTube. I've used quite a lot. I've done recently. Last year I've used leave to do courses because something to do really, and things I've always wanted to do and develop, and I've never really had the time to do it. So I've used that time to
formal courses. And obviously you mentioned dictation earlier. Dictation things for people that struggle. Yeah. Habits. A lot of the stuff we've spoken about today has been around different people's behaviors, different people's habits. Has there been any habits that you've developed in the past, 5 years, 10 years, 1 year that you feel has really benefited you, something you've adapted the way you behave or the things that you do on a daily basis?
Habit. I mean, I do have a thing for continually kind of learning. I think my kind of habit is, like I say, trying to develop my kind of weaknesses and things like that. It's kind of a thing I've got into a habit of doing. And I don't think there's a year gone by where I don't learn something new every year, whether it's courses or I mean, the next thing obviously doing IFEs and things like that. I don't think there's a year gone by where I've not done something new or learned something new, do you know what I mean? Or really had something that's impacted. This is about kind of developing really, and I think that's probably one of my traits.
So for somebody that's always developing, somebody that's always seeking what's next, what is next for you?
Career-wise, I probably will be looking at kind of coming up to Midlands, maybe leaving out of London. just really for the family life, because I think we kind of wanted to start a kind of family, me and wife.
Wow.
Kind of
Congratulations.
yeah. So we're kind of looking at coming up to closer to home, because I think doing the commute is okay, but I think having it just makes it a bit more difficult if you're.
I think it's a great experience to have, but there's a balance to be had, isn't there? You've had a wonderful experience, you've had some great exposure, and now you want to recalibrate.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things I've done in London, obviously we've mentioned some of them now, but some of the things you just would have never got anywhere else. Like I've got an amazing picture of me behind the clock face of Big Ben.
Really?
Just would never have that opportunity.
Ever.
If I didn't work at Westminster and House of Parliament was on my ground, I would have never got that picture.
Getting to go for a risk inspection somewhere like that.
Yeah, we just did a 7-2D there, yeah. So, and also like the top of Victoria Tower and stuff like that. I mean, even on the fire boats as well. It's a completely unique thing to London, isn't it?
People that have to pay a lot of money to go up and down the Thames and see some of the sites you've seen as part of your role. Yeah, we did a Memorial Day flotilla the other year as well, which was really, really nice to do. So basically, loads of boats just get together, all the emergency services boats, so the police boat, Oral and I, and do a flotilla and the lift up Tower Bridge. Yeah.
Whereas as we go through it and stuff like that, just like some of those experiences, you just never.
Surreal.
They never get elsewhere. Yeah, I think London obviously just gives you kind of unique challenges, and it's not really about brigade itself. You know what I mean? It's more about actually London, the city.
It is a really unique melting pot of diverse cultures that gives you an opportunity to see and do things and experience people that you would never ever have the benefit of developing in that way if you'd not have you placed yourself in that position at the end of the day. So thinking about everything that we've discussed today, if you had to try and encapsulate it, whether that be in advice to a new recruit or even just like a gigantic billboard, if you had one in the sky and you sort of had a message to share with people, what would that one takeaway be?
Well, I did have a new recruit who was she was struggling a little bit. Well, I think it was down to her previous manager was a bit of a bully. Okay. And she actually, the day I joined the watch there, it was my first posting as a watch manager, she had a notice in. She put a notice in.
Oh, wow.
And when I look back at it, I think it's probably one of the most kind of rewarding things in my career that I've done is I've actually stopped that person from leaving. And now she's a fully qualified firefighter and she loves the job. And it's just amazing how much of one manager can have an effect on
100%.
somebody.
This is it.
And make that person put their notice in and leave the job that they've just trained for and done everything for.
Not wanted to do that for years. Maybe they wanted to do it since they were a child.
Yeah. So and to be fair, that's probably one of my most kind of proudest things. And some of the things I used to say to her was, how do you know something you've never been told? How do you know something you've never been told? No, if you've never been told something, how do you know it?
Yeah. That's it. We don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't know what I'm supposed to know something, and as well, get to know people, people and learn. There's always somebody. You can always learn something from somebody, even if you think, they're I don't know, someone who's not really relevant or whatever. But you can always learn something from somebody, even if they're equal, above, below, a trainee firefighter and you're a competent firefighter or whatever. You can always learn something from somebody.
And that sounds like you are that eternal student. Do you know what I mean? And I feel the same. I'm that eternal student tattooed on my body, on my arm is, I'm no better than no one, no one's any better than me. And I always like to think that no matter what somebody's achieved, no matter what somebody's done, I can always learn from them and they can always learn from me as well, but you've got to want to have that growth mindset. You've got to be that eternal student. And I think that is you. Do you know what I mean? When you speak about different areas of development each year, trying to find another way to tickle that mental growth is incredible. I want to finish just by recapping, because I know you shared an awesome right at the beginning about the work that you've done with the Firefighters charity. So just to confirm that for me, we're going to put it in the notes, but for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about it, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you or with the charity itself?
So, anyone can kind of contact me. So I cover the Midlands. So anyone who's actually the fire service for the Midlands, I'm the kind of charity rep for the 10 counties there. So there is, I've even got one here. The number 0800 389 8822. to contact the Firefighters charity. And they obviously do a wide range of things, so psychological support, which is relatively new, but it's their priority now. Is going forward in the future is obviously the psychological support. So people, I just want to get one thing out there really, is that people think it's all about PTSD and things like that, but it's not just that. It's about general mental health conditions, anxiety, depression, stress, anything like that. Anything going out, like a lot of people do go up there for stuff outside of the job. But it does have an effect. So the charity is there really, it's quite cold-faced about it, is to keep you in work. But obviously you benefit from that because you get the support for you to be fit and healthy mentally and physically.
Because also, if you're struggling in the job, you're probably struggling in life in general. You're probably struggling at home.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah,
it has bleed over.
And things go on outside the job, and it does affect you
Works
in
both
the job
ways.
as well.
Works both ways.
So, I mean, I've obviously done the job with the charity 6-7 years, I think, but I've spoke to hundreds of people that have been out to the charity and had a massively positive impact in their life because of it. Because even on a physical program, you'll go down there and you'll learn about kind of the mental side of it, importance of sleep, diet, nutrition, things like that, exercising, getting a good balance of life. Like everyone kind of thinks, oh, going to go to work and go home and stuff like that. But if you don't get that, even that exposure to fresh air, countryside, stuff like that every now and again, it massively it changes your kind of mood and your outlook. Because basically, we're still what we were hundreds of years ago. We still need that kind of balance. You can't just live in a brick kind of wall.
Can't just live in brick walls and stare at screens all the time. We're still the same animals we were even thousands of years ago. We've got a lot of the same psychological levers and the same chemicals are flowing through our blood. So you've got to make sure you're prioritising those bits.
And I think for a lot of people, there's awareness of that, and that's one thing the charity. If you ever go down to one of the services, one thing the charity will do is make people aware of how to be healthy all round. Basically, it's not just physically, more obviously not just psychologically, but it's more all round healthy. So, which is a fantastic thing. Then
we've got self-awareness, we've got health, mental, physical. We've obviously got all the support the Firefighters charity do, and then we're going to be dropping in there as well the link for when that person on the watch makes that slip up, when they're late, when they get the overtime, whatever it may be, rather than them having to.
Yeah, I think.
Buy some.
I mean, I'm really excited about where it.
Mate, this is huge. It's huge.
It could be huge if we can get this out to, like I say, to the whole of the country. All we need to do is text that in, and then they give you a text back as well, so you can go, look.
Yeah,
I've even
screenshot it, send it to your WhatsApp group, and go I've made my donation.
Look, here's my proof. I've texted in. There's my donation, and then go from there. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, even if you're kind of looking at it from the health wise, then I mean, I was sick of getting cakes all the time. I mean, I like a cake and a donut and stuff, but when you're getting so many, you can't you're feeling sick. You don't have to eat them, obviously.
No, mate, that's where I leave the room. But Nath, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story. Mate. I think it's been really, really powerful. And look after yourself, brother.
Yeah, and you. Thanks a lot.
See you soon.
Cheers.
Hey everyone, well that was my conversation with Nathan. Now before you rush off, make sure you drop down into the links below and check out how you can donate to the Firefighters charity. I know we covered so much today, and there was some incredible aspects about self-awareness, about confidence, about bullying, about personal development, about being at some of the biggest incidents that the UK has seen. When we talk about Grenfell in the last couple of decades, it was an absolutely landmark event in the emergency services, and it's great to hear what the experience was like for somebody that was actually there. I'm really grateful to be able to share these sorts of experiences and try and capture these conversations, capture this sort of like a time capsule, so we can look back on these experiences and remember what it was like for people operating in the emergency services at this moment in time in 2021. What was the pulse like? What were the feelings like? What were people really experiencing as watched life? I think Nathan's been a great example of that. The biggest takeaway for me is the aspect of being that eternal student. It's something I always try and push myself to be, and I try and hold myself accountable to how have I developed myself. I've invested another year in my life. What has been the outcome? How can I look back and see what have I taken from this year? How have I grown personally, physically, emotionally, relationships? There's so many aspects of personal growth, and it was great to explore some of those today. And again, a massive shout out to the Firefighters charity. Details for the charity are below us, especially the aspects of donations when people get that cake. So when people get that fine, when people get that little bit of a ribbon on station, and they're encouraged, it's the unwritten rule to get cakes for the watch. There is an alternative. There's a way for us to contribute that money to a greater cause, and not everybody has to do it, but if you've got multiple people on station, people are on overtime, and again, I'd love to see this adopted by other services. There's no reason that people can't copy and paste, use this example, and allow people to contribute more than just a sugary treat for people to have after dinner. We can contribute to something far greater and far more widespread that really impacts families across all of the emergency services. And also, of course, a massive thanks to you. Yes, you, the listener, taking time out of your valuable day to be here with us once again on the Firefighters podcast. You were part of this conversation. You listened in. You were the fly on the wall. Thank you for that. I hope it gives you some reflections. I hope it gives you a good idea. I hope it was communicated in such a way that you feel a little bit motivated. Maybe you feel optimistic. Maybe you yourself want to take a leaf out of Nathan's book and become a bit more of an eternal student. So on that note, I encourage you, I applaud you, and I acknowledge you for being here and investing in yourself, investing this time in us, in the podcast. So until next time, look after yourself, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and I will see you once again real soon, right here on the Firefighters podcast.